I'm Ashlyn, and today I'm going to be doing a little bit of a book review over a book that I read for my SSR product, which, hello Mrs. Keel, you're looking lovely today. The book I chose to read was The Maze Runner. That's a very popular book. If you see me looking down, I just have some notes on things that I wanted to cover, or I kind of have to cover for a grade, so yeah. I read The Maze Runner by James Dashner, who is a very well-known author who also wrote the rest of the Maze Runner series. I think it's a trilogy. The Infinity Ring series and the 13th Reality series, which are both like pretty good dystopian sci-fi kind of series if you're into what this book is about. So James Dashner was the author. The publisher was Delacorte Press. That might not be right. I know it's right, but I don't know how to pronounce it. Delacorte Press. And it was published in 2009, so it's a relatively modern and new book, but it definitely wasn't popular until, I'd say, this year, so at least not, I hadn't heard of it, which, doesn't say much, but yeah. The genre is dystopian or sci-fi, and I think some people that would enjoy this kind of book are people that also enjoy like that general genre, because it is a very specific audience it appeals to. I know that's my favorite kind of novel. Like The Giver was my first dystopian novel, and ever since then I've been hooked on dystopian. And so people that enjoyed the Hunger Games trilogy or the Divergent series would probably also enjoy The Maze Runner. So I guess I'll just kind of like sum up what happens in the book without giving away too much. I don't want to give away too much, but I'll allude to some things. So the main characters are Albie, Benchuck, and Albasta, as they call them, the Gladers, which are all of the boys that have been placed into the Glades. Basically, Thomas is our main character here. He comes up, the book starts out in behind the scenes of like a laboratory, and then all of a sudden they come up into an elevator, and then it kind of like starts unraveling the whole rest of the story about how all the other boys got there. And there's a bunch of boys living there that are like teenage boys, just living on what they call the Glades, and it's like a big field surrounded by huge walls, and they have a garden, and they have all kinds of things. Like they have a little house and with some interesting things, and like a picture of an older woman, which nobody really understands. They have maps. They've mapped out the mazes. Like, it is called Maze Runners. The reason it's called the Maze Runners is because there's a huge maze, and basically they're never given like a task per se, but they kind of just assume. So it's all about kind of like a social experiment and how people react when they don't really know what's expected of them, but they have things given to them. So that was really cool to read and to kind of see, even though it's fiction. Human nature is always really interesting to like kind of delve into. Basically, they come up in an elevator, and Thomas is the main character that we follow that comes up in the elevator, and Albie is the main Glader there that kind of shows him around, and he's the leader. He's been there the longest. So yeah. And they have grievers, and grievers are kind of like mechanical / like huge monsters that patrol within the maze, and they're deadly. I think I don't want to give away too much, but Thomas and a couple of other boys end up actually going in the maze, and Thomas is actually like one of the first people to ever make it back alive, and he saw all grievers and stuff, and so you can get stung by a griever, and then that kind of makes you go through like a transformation, and that can make you go like crazy, and not many people survive that either, and there's a lot of stuff mentioned about that. Yes, and then I guess the main turning point in the novel is when our other main character, who is a female, the only female in the book, well, for like the Gladers, the only female in the book. Her name is Teresa. She comes up in the elevator, and she's like infatuated with Thomas, and for some reason they're really drawn to each other. They have they can connect with their brain, and they have like telepathy, which I think is crazy. And it turns out that Thomas tries to go through a transformation on purpose, like he gets stung on purpose so that he can be only in his head, and so he can remember his past, because for some reason they're different than all the other Gladers, and they have a different view on things, and they keep having like flashbacks of like their past and like a laboratory and all this sciencey stuff and the creation of like the maze and all of that stuff. So they kind of connect on that level, and they actually end up finding out, like, between the two of them how to get out of the maze, and then they take a group in, and they lose about half of them along the way. But I don't know, you'll have to read the book to find out if they make it to the end and what happens at the end, but the ending is really, really good. So I think that it's just a good ending. I probably gave away too much there, but, you know, I mean, what are you gonna do? It's a great book. So I really enjoyed the book. Out of 5 stars, I give it a 4.2. You know, I'm a harsh critic, but I really enjoyed it. I think that it's a little bit below a reading level, probably, for a high school senior. But for pleasure, I definitely enjoyed reading it. And it was an easy read, and it was good. I didn't want to ever put it down. The genre is dystopian, and that's a big, like, literary trend now, is dystopian novels, and that's how it kind of like connects to all the other novels, is definitely like dystopian, and also kind of mixed with human nature and how like people interact with each other. I think that that's like psychology is becoming like a big topic of literature, which I think is really interesting because people are finding it interesting to read about, which I think is really cool because I love reading about that. And the author writes with a lot of suspension and creates a lot of tension, and he uses a lot of foreshadowing to kind of, you know, keep you interested. But he does it very like mysteriously, so you won't know that it's foreshadowing until later. Obviously, that's how foreshadowing works, but it's really cool. I really enjoyed that. And he uses a lot of metaphors, and he links that to like reality, like actual, like our reality. So it's a very, very good and interesting book. I enjoyed it thoroughly. I would recommend it to anybody that enjoys dystopian novels, or if you just want kind of like an easy, fun read that is actually kind of like stimulating to your brain, and well, you'll enjoy it. I promise you'll enjoy it. So thank you guys for watching, or just Miss Keel, you know. Hi. Have a great day. And I hope that you find a book that makes you smile.